So we're on page Reish Kaf again. Ayidei bias hanachash the klipa al chava ad yonis. So there was apparently in the chava ad yonis. So this is the chava of Olam Atzilus, I assume. So he says that this is the malchus of Olam Atzilus, and this klipa comes into her because of the timing of that situation, which is called the nachash. V'chava nikras Elohim. And so in this case, she's called Elohim. We should call her Elohim. V'lechach nichras klipas dechurim elu b'shnei b'shem b'nei Elokim canal. So these two male klipos. Now is he saying one is called Kayin, one is called Hevel? I kind of missed that transition. And also, let me read it one more time for something else. Ayidei bias hanachash the klipa al chava al yoinen. V'chava nikras Elohim, because of that bia that takes place. V'lekach nikroim klipos dechurim. So therefore, they're called male klipos. Elu b'shnei b'shem b'nei Elohim. Okay, uvenos ha'adam heim chochber b'binda denukva. So the phrase b'nei Adam, the benos Adam, refers to the bina of the nukva, the klipa, the olam abriya. So he says, let's go on a little bit. V'heim shtei ruchos nukvim shenispashtu b'hanukva hanikras nefesh chaya shal olam abriya. So we have all these different names that he's applying to these ideas. But basically, we're talking about the chochma bina, he said previously, of the zer anpin of the klipos. So somehow we have over here, we have Kayin and Hevel, and then over here, we're coming over here to the benos Elohim. He says benos Elohim is, what did he say? A nikra, he says, Chava el yoinde v'chava nikras Elohim. So it's she that's the one that's called Elohim, Dahainu. Bechinas ruchos smola. So he says, what is this? This is a left side ruach. Shenis pashed al yedei chet Adam Rishon, which happened as a result of this chet. He allowed the left side to come in and gain dominance, which is the female side. These two klipos, which are feminine, which refers to this bina of the klipa we said before, Adam. They're called, these klipos on the female side, is now we have a lineup of two on the male side, Kayin and Hevel, and then we have benos Elohim, Adam. Nizdavku im shtei klipos dechurim and nekroim b'nei Elohim, which are called the sons of Elohim, which is the children of Chava, which he says another word for Elohim. K'moshe v'yira b'nei Elohim as benos Adams. And now these two opposites are attracted. Ki chochma the nukva the klipa, because the chochma of the nukva the klipa, niknesecha b'nukva the yama rabba shuhu makom chochma the dechura the klipa. So he says that what happens is that the chochmas line up. So it's a lineup, so that so they become parallel. They become, what is it? Just like you said, it enters into the dechura, the klipa bechinas hahevel, v'chein bina the nukva nikneses benukva the dechum rabba. So also he says the bina the nukva, it goes into the nukva the dechum rabba who makom bina the dechura bechinas kayin. Now, a lot of different words here, and I'm having trouble keeping track of them, but basically we're matching up the binas and the chochmas of the male and the female aspects as Kain and Hevel versus benos Adam. So this, he says, Shebimei Yehoshua ben Nun, nimtako shtei klipos dekurim shehim Kain v'Hevel. So at that time, those two klipos were subdued. Hanikroim b'nei Elohim. So what was his words? He said nimdigu, they were sweetened. So in other words, they're still dinim, but they're good dinim. So he sent out Shnayim Menashe Meraglim Cheresh Lemor. So he has these spies, he sent these spies out, and then it says Lemor. So these two klipos, which we're talking about Kayin and Hevel. So he says again, Kayin is what? Time is the source of the klipos, and Hevel is the source of the din. And so trying to see how this works with Hevel, that name, how does it work? I don't know. The fish mispashtin and meraglim acher ma'isa b'nei Adam, because they spread and they start spying out what people are doing. So this is why they're called spies. They're really looking at us. So therefore they run around quietly. This is like we're all alone. So whatever we're doing, nobody's paying attention. And this is what they do, because afterwards they come along and they start criticizing and saying their accusations before Hashem. So what is it that they could become perfumed, so to speak? It takes place at the time of Yeshua ben Nun. And they become put away, and hidden away, which is, where are they actually located? He says in Olam Habriya. So he says, Ashuhu Yama Utahuma Rabba, which is the Yama Gadol, which we mentioned before, and the Tahom Rabba. So these two places. Ve'enam Mektargim. And when they go to these places, they stop their accusations. Doesn't mean that they're gone, but they went away. So once again, I'm trying to understand the metaphor of putting them away into these kind of places, into the place which is called the Tahom Rabba and the Yama Gadol. This says more. My benosa Adam. Let's talk about them. Amesai nimtekush te klipus nukvin anikroim benos Adam. So he said, in the days of Shlomo HaMelech, then that's when these klipos, that is the female enticers, are the ones that are pulled over to the side of Tov. The Sev Kamosha Kosov. Oz Tovono Shtaim Nashim Zoinus Alamelech. So these two women who were Zoinus, they came before the king. So here he means to come whatever is the power of the king. Klipos Elu Nikros Gam Shtei Nashim Zoinus. So they're all also called these two women dedicated to harlotry. The Fishu Nukvin and Nikroim Nashim, because these are again, this word Nukvin, these female aspects, which are called women. I'm not sure what the symbol of that is. Vehein zonos, and then they're called the harlots. So what? Let's work at the word zonos. The fish heim zonos, mizanos, because they feed off and mizdavkos ima adam, and I think that means mizanos and mizdavkos, and cling onto people. Bod ki heim klipos. Shemafatos as adam, but they're also klipos that seduce people into doing the worst thing. Bipituyim shainim, and all different kinds of seductions. This is their. You see, I'm just focusing on that word nukvin. Why he said the fish shehem nukvin anikrois nashim. Nukvim is a word whole, like they're whole, they're empty, and nikroim nashim, they're called women. So what do? They feed off of men. Lavera. So he said, but they can ki hem klipos shemafatros as anan lavera. Bipituyim shainim. With all different kinds of seductions. So they raise up their voice. They really make a very strong call. But he was zeicher to sit on the throne of mercy. And what's Yarish? Yarish means he inherited. I'm okay. V'yarish b'chinas malchus, and he inherited the aspect of malchus. He's the ruler. V'zacha l'b'chinas chachma de bria, and he was able to be on the side of the chachma of bria, I assume, of kedusha. I don't know how that goes. Let me go back. V'zacha l'b'chinas chachma de bria, l'kach, and so therefore nisbasmo klipos nukvim. So therefore, that's the reason why they became sweetened. The aspect of the Nukvim, Elush Heim Gan Bebria, which are also in Bria. So since he represents, I've been trying to understand what is his Koach and Bria. Yesterday we learned that the Chochma Bria is associated with the Yesod of Etzilus. So he's the Yesod of the Etzilus. He's the Melech. He's sitting in his throne of Yudke Vavke, and he's also represented in some way over here in Bria as the king too, or Chochma. The Nukva, so therefore they're the concept of these two, Chochma Bina Nukva, that's the Zonos here, they're the Klipa, the Olam Abriya, because they're on both in Olam Abriya, so you have now the male aspect, which is the Chochma over there, and in Bria, and it's able to be involved with these zonas, which is the let's see. He says, what is it? It's two. Each one of them is two. So he says the male and female of Bina. I think that's what he means. So it reads like this. I'm trying to add it up in my head. Ki ra ashtei nashim zonos. So he saw them. Ki chachmas elokim bekirbo, because he has this chachma of elokim inside of him. Zaynas the klipos ayidei shlomo. So again, it's a little mysterious how he's doing this. Azai ra ashtei zonas vehevinu. So then he was able to ra ush ashtei zonas. He was able to look at them, and huh?
They saw.
Where? Which word are we on?
What you just said.
Okay, azai then. Ra'u hashtei zonos, right? And zonos vehevinu, and he understood.
No, they saw. The women themselves saw. Once the source was bottled, they themselves saw Shlomo's wisdom.
Azai ra hashtei zonos vehevinu, and they understood. Shlomo zochel l'chochma de bria, because Shlomo was able to have the chochma of bria, and this chochma does what? Hanikras chochmas elokem. So because of this chochma, they were able to become, in other words, it filled them, so to speak. V'lechein koye b'kochel lahamtik es hashtei zonos asher b'makomam gam came b'bria kanal, so that their place is also in bria. So now all this is happening in bria. V'amar od, and he's saying like this because the klipos are strong in bria. It's not part of kedusha, and it's klipos. V'amar od ki lashon the pasuk, that the language of the pasuk is az tavono shtaim nashim zonis alamelech. Then they both came forth. Ba lomar, come to say like this: shedavka bebecha b'shlomo hamelech nimtko hashtei zonos. So this is the time when Shlomo HaMelech is sitting on his throne of Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, and this is a connection to the Chochmah of Olam HaBriya. These two zonos are on the Bina side of the Bria of Bria also, and they're attracted to his Chochmah, to that Chochmah, which is a natural thing, and he fills them with wisdom. Below Mekad Maisa. He said, but it doesn't happen before this time. So therefore, if we look at the time of Yeshua ben Nun, there's no question of what did he do over there. He saw that he brought the spies, somewhere he got a hold of the spies. So those two meraglim, which is the klipas on the male side, they're really much more difficult. He calls that with all this though, lo nimtiko rabishnei zonis rak b'mei Shlomo, but only at the time of Shlomo do you see that the tocha of these two of the women here, of the female aspect, shechoya b'sitra the nukva, which came from the female side. Below b'mei Yoshua shechoya b'darga dechura, which not in the side, however, of Yeshua, which is the male side. And he says, why was that? How was he able to do this? So Yosef the concept of bris, that's the male aspect. So therefore he was only on one side. Now let's talk about Shlomo, so that we understand he was only on the right side. He was pure male. He didn't want to say the part that I said about the bris. He just wanted to say he's on the right side. He's on the male side. But Shlomo Shehoy b'nei Yehuda, but he came from a different source, which is Malchus. Shehi b'chinas nukva, which is Malchusnik. V'chuz azeh shetikan as klipas nukvi. So he wants to say that the right is Misak in the right, and the left Misak in the left. So it's because I think he maybe could have said other answers, but that's the one he said. Then he says, "B'kitva the pigon, kodem b'riyas Adam." Okay, but kistra the tikurit. Kistra we learn is dinim that are bundled together to be gone that cause damage. Kodem brias adam berishon niskashru behechol elyon Shnei Melachim Aza va'azkel. Now we remember this back to learning it just recently in the Rat. So they came, they're screaming at Kodesh Baruch Hu and accusing Al Brias Adam that when he creates this man, he says they don't like it. Because he's going to sin. So these accuser, Azza and Azkel, so he says that the two of them, there actually was born out of the yichud of the Churim and Nikroim b'nei Elohim, mim klipas anukvin an Nikroim b'nos Adam. That's a very interesting concept that they create an accusation. V'him nefilim, and they're the ones that fall. Look at Moshe ne'amar v'chan nefilim choya be'aretz b'yom b'mahen. Asher yivor b'nei Elohim b'nos Adam, that they came into, in other words, a yichud decha v'yoldu lahem, and they gave birth to them. Kolomer shahan nefilim noldu mebias b'nei Elohim al b'nos Adam. So these two klipos coming together, they produce the concept of the nefilim. So let's talk about the inyan of the Nephilim, which are these two names, Asa and Azka. So he said, "Nikroim Nephilim, v'amatrin mischadkan b'havu la'elu, b'shnei hamalachim Azak and Azkel." There we go. V'hi yosim l'malo kodem Nephilos, and when they were still in potential. No, they were completely together. They were, gestating. They were together, completely one, cleaned once with a v'inyan hu shesharsham beklipos the churim and nikraim b'nei Elohim. So the root of the klipos, the male klipos, which are called by that name, shehi bebechinas chachma bebinah the klipa, which is the chachma bebinah the klipa b'yama rabba, which is in the place of the yama rabba, and then another place which is called the tehuma rabba, the olam habriya. So that's all these words having to do with olam habriya. This is a formation of klipos and their relationship to Atzilus. So at this point, they're completely and totally together, which is the concept of Chochmah and Bina are one. But the malachim, so though these malachim that were born from these klipos, they're also clinging together. The Santa Nachsu. We ran out of time? Okay, we'll come back to that, and we'll try to get it tomorrow.